Hey, what's up guys? It's Justin from Precision Camera and Video, and we are finally back. I've reached out to Canon. I was like, hey, I need a production model so I can show our viewers what's actually going on with this camera. They listened. So right now we have our EOS R6, and I know I briefly went over some of the specs, but I do just want to kind of go over some of them again. And then after that, we're going to do some test shots, video, stills, and then we'll give you our final thoughts. So starting right off from the bat, this is a 20.1 megapixel sensor. It is based off the sensor that they're using in their 1DX Mark III. Now, another big thing is they're going to be fully stabilized, 5-axis stabilization. That has never happened in a Canon camera, so very pleased to see it. From my testing previously, I've had this camera for a few days or so, but testing this one with the EOS R5, stabilization is amazing. There's a lot of things going on internal in this camera, so it's taken advantage of the Digic X processor that they also use in your 1DX Mark III. Now, comparatively to a lot of full-frame cameras on the market right now, 20 megapixels does seem pretty low, but I would say it has plenty of dynamic range in this camera, and I would opt to have the low light capabilities on something like this. And like I said, it's the sensor based off our 1DX Mark III, and after seeing what that camera can do, really excited to see what this one's going to be able to handle. Now let's talk about some of the external features of the EOS R6. The EOS R6 has a polycarbonate exterior. It is going to feature dual UHS 2 card slots. Now on the top, we have a mode dial. It is different from our EOS R and our EOS R5, which have an electronic mode dial. Personally, I would have liked to have seen the electronic mode dial with the R6, but talking to one of the Canon reps, they said maybe they use this just to differentiate it between the R5 and the R6. Another feature is we're going to have a fully articulate flip-out LCD screen, which is also touchscreen. A feature that we have on our EOS R that they changed on the R5 and R6 is we now have an 8-way multi-control function used to toggle autofocusing points or navigate through the menus. I personally like this a lot better than what we had on our EOS R. Our EOS R6 is going to have weather sealing very similar to a 6D Mark II, and its shutter is going to have a rating of around 300,000 shots. The R6 is also going to take advantage of the brand new LPE6NH battery. Now that's going to give us around 14% more battery life than a regular LPE6N. You can also use your LPE6 batteries in this as well. Another thing, speaking of battery life, is this is rated for about 255 shots. The R6 is going to have almost 100% coverage of autofocusing zones on the sensor. We're actually going to get 1,053 autofocus zones on the sensor. The EOS R6 is going to give us 4K up to 60 frames per second, and we are able to shoot 120 frames per second at 1080p. Now, the EOS R6 is oversampled from 5.1K. So our resolution in the EVF, we're gonna have 3.6 million dots. It's gonna be natively 60 frames per second, but you can boost it to 120 frames per second. If you're shooting fast action, something like that, then I'd recommend boosting it. Another note that I want to touch on for shooting is we're going to have 3 control dials. So one is going to control ISO, the back one is going to be shutter, and then our control wheel on the back is actually going to control the aperture. If you are using a native RF mount lens, then it's actually going to give us a 4th control wheel, as all of the lenses in the RF series are going to offer that control dial as well. Another thing to keep in mind is that when we are shooting it in 4K on the R6, it is going to have a very slight crop. It is going to have a 1.07 crop. Now that's nothing major, but that is something to keep in mind on the R6. The EOS R6 is going to take advantage of the dual pixel autofocus 2. So pairing that with its almost 100% full coverage of the sensor with autofocus zones, this should have some of the fastest autofocusing out there. All right, so those are some of the key specs of the EOS R6. Now, I'm really excited to be shooting this camera. We're out here in East Austin. We're gonna be shooting with Vanessa today. So let's not waste any more time and let's jump right into it. All right, so we just finished shooting with Vanessa. Time for some final thoughts. Now, what do I think of the EOS R6? Overall, I was really happy with it. Now, I said the R6 and the R5 have the exact same autofocusing system, and it covers almost all the sensor. You could definitely tell. There was some shots where I was actually, getting behind some greenery, and it was even cutting off Vanessa's face a little bit, and it was still tracking with no issues. Stabilization held up. I have really shaky hands, but it definitely compensated for that. When I was walking, it was a little bit difficult, but I think that's going to be with any camera when using IBIS. You just naturally go up and down with your steps. But overall, really happy with it. I think 20 megapixels is more than enough in a camera for stills. If you're looking to do like large prints, then obviously you might need something with a little bit higher resolution. One thing that I did notice when shooting in the video mode, you only have two options for your exposure. So either automatic video or manual video. You don't have an option to do something like aperture priority when shooting video. Not something big, but is a feature that maybe they could add in with a firmware update. The EOS R6 is also a video-oriented camera. Now, it does come with a microphone jack, but it also does come with your headphone jack if you want to monitor your audio. The things that I loved the most about it was probably the autofocusing, the IBIS, and that you can get 4K 60 and 120 at 1080. But other than that, let me know what you think about this camera. If you think you're going to pick up an EOS R6. Now, it is going to be coming out at the end of August, and it's going to retail for $24.99 US. I am going to leave a link down below if you want to pre-order it with Precision Camera and show some support. Other than that, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.